It'll come as no surprise to most of us what an absolute disaster Secret Invasion was from beginning to end. A series that they somehow spent $200 million on, and the only thing they actually managed to achieve was the utter destruction of Nick Fury's character, more damage to the Marvel Universe, and just the overall Marvel brand. And very little else came out of it. And yet again, we have another person involved with the production of one of these shows, one of these movies that clearly doesn't know what he's talking about. And again, keeps bringing me back to the question, why do Marvel keep hiring these people that have very little experience and have no clue of the role that they're actually filling? So we have the director of Secret Invasion, a 6-episode series, which again spent $200 million on. And just to give you a bit of background, this is the guy they decided to go with. A guy that over the past 15 years has directed 850 television commercials, because they're just like TV shows, 5 half-an-hour documentaries, and several music videos. In terms of actual shows that he's directed, again, it's just, 1 episode here, 2 episodes there, on series that nobody has ever heard of. That's the person they get for the job, and as we go through this interview that he done with Variety, you'll realise, this guy doesn't have a clue about the craft that he's in. He doesn't have the talent or the understanding of what he's trying to do, and you'll soon see that throughout the interview, as he gives his thoughts on what he seems to think the series is about. He doesn't have a clue. Doesn't have a clue in the slightest. So they start off with a question. Now that the series finale is aired, how would you describe Secret Invasion's overall message? Well, first of all, there is no message because it's that big of a mess. There's no consistent idea or theme that they're going for. So I guess he's just going to have to try and make something up on the spot. Is there a particular scene from the finale that underlines that for you? He says, the theme that interested me in these scripts and in this story was the theme of other. Basically, it seems as though he's trying to go for, well, the Skrulls are othered. People don't like them. And people are right not to like them, because they are very horrible, horrible people from how they're shown in this series. They want to blow up the entire world, take over. They have stolen 1 million people's lives, and you want to talk about, people need to get rid of their prejudice against Skrulls that have done all these horrendous things. So that seems to be what he's trying to say. How do we confront the other in our neighborhood? How do we confront the other in ourselves? Where if they're Skrulls, hunt them down and kill them, as the president at the end of the series stated, because that is the right course of action. How do we reconcile love that doesn't seem to fit into a socially acceptable box because they invented a wife that happened to be a Skrull for Nick Fury? They just went back and said, he had a wife that was a Skrull the whole time. So that wasn't socially acceptable. I mean, based on the big kiss we got at the end of the series, it just seems like someone was into alien porn. That's all it seems like to me. Sam Jackson and I had a lot of conversations about that. Ultimately, the scene that I pushed for and really enjoyed is when Nick Fury kisses Vara at the end. So I think we know who the alien porn addict is. That is releasing the scenes of other in himself that has been a constraint or a prejudice. Basically, Nick Fury was fucking racist. It's opening up the world to conversation, if not all-out love and embracing. Again, if you're trying to make the argument for Skrulls that, people just need to open themselves up to no, kill them. Hunt them down, kill them. They've stolen and ruined millions of people's lives. They tried to nuke the entire world to take control of it. I don't see how, no, that's the time for a conversation. Not just taking action against them. So that's what he seems to think the message of the show is, at least from what I'm reading from this. But again, we're dealing with someone that has no clue on what he's actually talking about. It's the very last scene of the series, and it really feels like that's what it's about. Which again, we don't get that throughout the series, so it doesn't mean nothing, because you had something in the final scene. So they then go on to ask him, audiences have gotten conditioned to this idea of the supersized season finale, but Secret Invasion's episodes got shorter as the show went along. What was the vision for that? Well, the vision for that was we don't have enough things to do to justify a longer episode. We can't come up with any way to do it. Whereas you take a show like House of the Dragon, where every episode is almost an hour long, and they fill that with a lot of stuff, a lot of meaningful stuff. Whereas with these shows, as we've seen throughout of Phase 4 and Phase 5 with these Marvel TV shows, they get very short because they've got no idea what they're actually doing. They don't know how to fill it with meaningful things because Marvel hires useless and talentless people, and they still wonder, why are we losing money? Why is nobody subscribing to Disney Plus? Well, because you keep hiring these idiots. That's why. So he says to this question, vision is a really big word, and I appreciate you're using it, but it's really just practical exploration and the practical evolution of a story. It's written one way, actors start performing it, and it becomes something slightly different. And when you start filming the performances, it becomes something slightly different. And then when you go to edit it, you realign yourself. So basically, you ain't really got a plan. You don't go, listen, we're going to have a plan here, so we don't have to spend as much money, do all these things to actually be efficient with it. No, it's just, well, it changes here, and what, because it wasn't good enough. And then you changed it, and it still wasn't good enough. So not necessarily doing anything. He says there's also some sense of ramping up to an explosive ending, which to my mind means you go faster, not bigger and bloatier. I mean, you had like 25-minute episodes round about the third episode, and they felt bloated. They did feel bloated and very empty. That's the strange thing. So they then go on to ask him, of course, as we know in this department, these people that work at Marvel have the wrong attitude when it comes to criticism. They're never willing to take it on board. They just sit in the corner and cope about it, and then try to somehow make it the audience's fault. So that's basically what we have here. They say to him, what have you made of the reaction to the series overall? Because reviews have been mixed. I would disagree with that. I haven't seen mixed reviews. I've seen negative reviews. That's about it. So he says, I don't read reviews. So already it's like, well, maybe you should and pass that on to your writers that are currently striking for more money than they're worth, which I still find very, very hilarious. So maybe you should read reviews. That way you may be able to take things on board and improve what it is that you're attempting to do. But no, it's, can't deal with that. With all due respect, for me, I view all the storytelling work I do as a dialogue with an audience. When the show is finished and put up on the screen, that's my half of the dialogue, and then I quickly run off to hide from all the criticism. That's what it seems like, because what you're describing is not a dialogue. A dialogue is not you going, here you go, and running away, and then the audience, that's not a dialogue. I don't know why you think that is. And the audience then starts their half of the response to it, which was very poor. I think that's valuable, but I don't know. I don't know how to answer the question. I mean, one way to answer the question is, maybe we didn't do a good job on that one. That's one way to answer it. People have some respect for you. He says, I don't feel bad about mixed reviews. Right, so now we're getting into the arena of cope. I don't feel bad about mixed reviews. Yeah, but you should. You should feel bad about that. I don't know why you'd be happy for it, but as we'll soon see, down the paragraph a little, he tries to play it as, I feel great about it. So it's just nothing more than cope. If you have, so we're also going to get a load of word soup, because the guy doesn't know what the hell he's talking about. He says, if you had unanimously good reviews, every movie would gross $10 billion trillion. Again, I don't know what that's got to do with anything. Projects resonate with different people at different times for different reasons. That didn't happen in any of these cases with this show. And Marvel has a very devoted, even rabid, because you demanded quality content. fan base who have expectations, and when their expectations aren't fulfilled, they move in the other direction. They give it a thumbs down. He says, I don't know, is it our job to fulfill their expectations? Well, yes. When you're dealing with a franchise that has a fan base, your job is to try, or at least attempt to, fulfill their expectations. My expectations were fulfilled in the sense that I expected it to be utter dog shit. So this is what I was expecting, because Marvel keep doing the same pattern over and over again. So it's very, very easy to predict things. So in that sense, my expectations were fulfilled. In the other sense, I don't know why the audience is being blamed for expecting something to be good. I don't know why that's on that's on you. Again, it's different. If you want to go make your own film, that's fair enough. You can do whatever the fuck you want with that. But when you're dealing with something that has a fan base, yeah, maybe try and fulfill their expectations. Or to tell the story that we're telling, he says. Well, again, it's a bit of both, but at the same time, it's like, of course it's your job to fulfill expectations. Especially if it's within a franchise. If you don't see that as your job, why are you here? I don't get it. I don't know why you're here. So it's a tricky thing. I would love it if everybody loved it, but I also don't have that expectation myself. So I feel great about the response to it. So yeah, it sounds like Jeff Loveness when he coped about Quantumania. Everybody was shitting on MODOK. Then I went to the cinema and everybody was laughing, missing the fact that no, people were laughing at it, not with it. So it's just that kind of cope. I feel great about the response to it. Yeah, but the response to it is awful. I don't see any way how a person would feel great about that. It just seems like you're coping and not willing to take any criticism on board whatsoever. If you're not willing to read reviews, you feel great about the response to it. That's kind of what that seems like. But again, it's the same attitude we continue to see, and that's why we continue to see Marvel go in the same direction they've been doing for the past 2 years, producing shite after shite after shite, and haven't yet broken from that pattern because of this attitude. That, it's not our job to fulfill your expectations. You expected Nick Fury to be served well as a character. No, we're going to ruin him. I don't know why you would think we weren't going to ruin him. It doesn't really make a lot of sense. So then he gets into more... again, this guy's reading of what filmmaking is or just storytelling is. He's got no idea. And that probably comes from the fact that all you've basically done is directed commercials. So that's probably why. So they started getting into more of the plot points of the show. So we're going to see what the guy's take on it is. And there's some things that he says that you'll just outright laugh at because it's insane that someone would even say it. So they ask him first off, it's a different story than Marvel has ever really told. Remember when everybody said, oh, it's Marvel's Andor, and they missed out the part that Andor is actually of high quality, whereas Secret Invasion, not so much. I guess the only thing it shares is its tone. That's about it. Let's dive into some of the actual plot points of the finale. One of the highlights was the massive showdown between Gaia and Gravik, whose powers have been enhanced by the Avengers' DNA. So that's the fight when Emilia Clarke has Drax's arm. It's a fight that, like, the mechanics of it don't work. They get all the Avengers' powers, like basically all of them, and they just pop it in the machine. They get all the powers. Gravik stupidly leaves Emilia Clarke in the machine with him. That's going to give him the powers. So obviously Emilia Clarke's going to get that as well. I don't know why you didn't think of that. But then again, the show is written by idiots that want more money. Because that's how that works, apparently. So that's that. And again, it's just like they get these powers. They instantly know how they all work, even though they've never used them before. And then Emilia Clarke somehow wins, even though they both have the same powers, including Captain Marvel's powers. So nothing about it makes any sense. None of it has been thought through whatsoever. So let's see what he says about it. He says, it's interesting. They're both stellar actors who bring a lot of electricity, and in most instances, in very quiet ways. Throughout this show, Emilia Clarke was nothing but a plank of wood because she's been cast for the wrong roles. She just doesn't fit these roles that she's being cast for. So that's why. So to say that, oh, an electricity performance. No, she's a plank of wood and she's got no character. Her entire character is, oh, I bombed a load of children. Oh, but that's wrong now. There's nothing developed about her. And then at the end, they give the massive showdown to a character you know nothing about and an idiot villain person. Nick Fury, even though he's the main character, is in the finale for about 5 minutes. So that's what they done with this show. So this is where we're about to have very strange things said. He says, when you get to a heavily choreographed fight scene or bombing sequence or an ambush sequence, it's just kind of fun. It's actors being like, okay, I don't have to bring it today. Why would they not have to bring it today? Of course they have to bring it. I just have to be a 12-year-old swinging from a rope. That's how he views action scenes. Although, with the action scenes we get out of most Marvel these days, he's kind of got the description down. So there's a lot of fun in those moments, and there's a lot of danger, but it's not as emotionally significant or emotionally resonant as the quiet moment in episode 5 where she and Nick Fury discuss Talos' death. The fight sequences become mathematical, mechanical, precise. Did we get it? Yes, move on. It comes together later in edit, and then you congratulate your mathematics and your mechanics. You don't congratulate the emotional resonance. So, for anyone that doesn't quite understand yet, this guy is saying there is nothing emotionally investing about action scenes. Even though the universe he's working in, we have examples like the end of Civil War when Captain America and Iron Man fight. The final fight they have, you realise this shit's over. It's split. There's no emotional resonance in that because it's an action scene. So these are the guys, these are the people that they are hiring. People that have no clue what storytelling is or what they can do with action scenes. When it's like, even within this show, you could make the action scene emotionally invested. First of all, we actually knew about the fucking characters involved. If we actually had a care for them. But no, we had Emilia Clarke in about 10 minutes of the entire show, and they're like, oh, that's a well-developed character, isn't it? So, of course, there's nothing to emotionally invest yourself in, because you don't know nothing about her. So why should I care? But it's fine. This guy thinks you can't do that anyway. Action scenes are just goofy little things. There's nothing you can actually achieve with them that would emotionally affect people or give an emotional response to it. So it's just, that's one of the stupidest things I've ever heard any Marvel director, writer ever say. It's another example of just don't say anything. You're making it worse. You're making it so much worse. So that's one of the funniest things that he says here, is action scenes are never emotionally substantive or emotionally resonant. That's what he thinks. So I'm just starting to wonder, has this guy ever seen films before? Because I don't think he has. It becomes obvious in the show. They definitely haven't watched the universe or the franchise that they're creating in. They haven't done that, so it's probably not that much of a surprise. I will ask you a nerdier question about that scene. This seems to be introducing Gaia's Super Skrull as Marvel's new most powerful being. That's right, they introduced a character nobody knows nothing about, gave her all the Avengers powers, including Captain Marvel's, and now she's the most powerful being in all of the Marvel Universe. She's not even in any other projects moving forward. So what we've gotten a lot of in this show is they've added a lot into the world, and it's things that are never going to get addressed. They're never going to get addressed. They're never going to address, oh yeah, there's the most powerful person walking about Earth this very minute. That's never going to come up again. So that's what they decide to do as well. How was it decided which Avengers powers she was going to get to show off? Well, simply put, it comes from Kevin Feige, which, as I've mentioned multiple times, this is why Kevin Feige should have no creative input in any of these productions, because he's a producer. He's not a creative, and that becomes apparent from things like this, where you have showrunners, writers, directors on these series that say, yeah, Kevin Feige told us to do it. You're just like, why? That's clearly the wrong move. Why are you listening to this person? Why does this person have any involvement whatsoever in the creative process when all of his ideas are terrible? Who says it's all fair game? Yeah, that's about all he thought about it. Yeah, do what the fuck you want. Who cares? Who cares, right? We're Marvel. We're bringing loads of people. Didn't quite happen though, did it? I mean, that's the attitude why Marvel is in the way it is now, because they thought, oh, we don't have to try. So that seems to be Kevin Feige's approach as well. That's best expressed in the moment when Gravik takes the vial from Nick Fury, puts it in the computer where it's analysed. He also leaves the Emilia Clarke impersonating Nick Fury in the machine with him. I don't understand that. That's very stupid. And we see all the pure superpowers ever. That's like the moment where we're like, okay, this is going to be something. It wasn't. We storyboard these sequences, so on and so forth. And together, the two of them found a rhythm between superpowers that had meaning and superpowers that had choreography and elegance. None of it did. None of it made any sense. They would switch they would just switch arms. That was it. They just go, right, 1 minute I got a Groot arm, and then for some reason I'm going to get Drax's arm. None of it really fits. 1 minute it's like, oh, I've got this guy's rings on, when that's not DNA. I don't know why you would end up with rings. So there's just been no thought put into any of this. So it just doesn't make any sense. Nothing to invest yourself in. Because, why should anyone win or not win? They both have the same powers. Emilia Clarke wins for reasons. So the decisions are Kevin Feige, then story, and then just practicality. They then mention Don Cheadle's Rhodey. They fucked him over because he's apparently been a Skrull since Civil War. Rhodey is a character that hasn't had a lot of screen time. So all of his moments from the end of Civil War onwards, they are all worthless. It was a Skrull the entire time. They have robbed that character of any significant moments he had by making, oh no, it was a Skrull the whole time. Even though looking at it, no, there's no way he was a Skrull the entire time. So what you're trying to say in this show doesn't line up with anything. Doesn't line up with anything at all. So they go on a bit about this Rhodey, the Skrull impersonating Rhodey was a woman, and bullshit like that. And then he mentions also, I worked on the show for 28 months. 28 months, $200 million. This is what you came up with. And we also have reports of the director appearing to admit the series was cobbled together even as the first episode was airing. So it's just like you have 28 months to do this, and you still haven't got it ready by the time the first episode airs. As he says here, and I think as we were editing, we're still finding the story. We were finding the story on episode 6 up until episode 1 had already aired. You had 28 months though. What did you do with that time? I really don't know. But again, it's just like, you wonder why all these productions just fall apart and just are completely disastrous. Because they've got no plan. They don't go, right, well, what we start off with, we'll get the script ready, we'll go through, we'll make sure everything makes sense, everything follows, everything is narratively consistent, whatever you want to call it. And then we'll start filming it. But they don't seem to do that, as we've heard from the likes of Multiverse of Madness or Quantumania. Constant reshoots. They film while the script isn't even done, and it's just like, why do you keep doing this? It's clearly failing. It's just have a plan. But no, they have 28 months, and they still don't know where the story's going in the final episode after the first episode has already aired. And he tries to play it as, that's part of the beauty of it, is that Marvel just keeps hunting it down and using the resources they have to come up with the best story possible, and that quest never ends. Yeah, but you fail. You fail all the time. It's always a failure with Marvel. So I don't know what any of this means. It's just bollocks. That's really all it is. But that is another disaster of a Marvel production, Secret Invasion, directed by someone who thinks action isn't emotionally significant, even though we have examples that contradict that, even within the franchise that he's working within. But this is the exact reason why we end up with these terrible, terrible shows and terrible, terrible movies, because they keep hiring these idiots that are just clueless on what their job is, what storytelling is. It becomes apparent every time. So what this guy should do is probably stop talking, because you're making it so much worse. And just even with the response of, it's not our job to fulfill fans' expectations. It's like that's the attitude. Just what you wanted it to be good, did you? You fool! You wanted it to be good. But that's the attitude that continues to just cause the Marvel Cinematic Universe more embarrassment.